to ask you some personal questions. We'll go there on you.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, what makes an entrepreneur? Like, I think there's so many people that at some point have this idea that, oh man, I'd love to be my own boss. I'd love to start my own thing. And we were kind of talking. We did a poll earlier, and that was talking about job security. So, put a poll on Facebook. What's keeping you at your current job? Job security or corporate culture? I've yet to have a single person say corporate culture.
Interesting.
There's been quite a few responses. So I think there's so many people that question whether they should be an entrepreneur, whether they should be just an employee. And I think starting out, I think we can all relate that being an entrepreneur there's a lot of struggle there. A true entrepreneurship, right? And that. So for an entrepreneur trying to make it, they have this idea, I think, and I know that I've had it in the past, which is, am I really an entrepreneur or am I an employee pretending to be an entrepreneur?
Okay.
Which is my space? Where am I? What do I need to do? How do I know who I am? Am I on the right track? What's going on? What would your advice be?
To you? To
the person that's feeling this
thinking
way.
that. Okay, yeah.
How would you differentiate in your head? Obviously, you're going to make a judgment call yourself.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on the definition of the entrepreneur, right?
Okay.
So that's it, and that's what you in that character is getting at. Is, to me, small business owners think of themselves as entrepreneurs.
Fair.
And they're not.
Okay.
They have a skill and they're doing all the work.
Okay.
That's the regular small business owner, right?
Fair.
But to me, that's changed over time. That's not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody who does things. And it's an action taker that builds a business. And so they've got employees, and they've got not 3 employees that are also siblings, but they've got a bunch of employees. They're building a business for the purpose of either stepping away from and cash flowing, or selling it off and making money from.
Okay.
That to me is kind of an entrepreneur. That person who's thinking, am I an employee or am I an entrepreneur? That's typically, give me some examples, because I think about a salesperson. A salesperson is kind of fits into that category, right? Where they're like, well, I'm kind of working, it's all my own commissions, I can have my own corporation or corporate structure to handle funds and taxes, but I'm still working for this company. That, to me, if they're doing all the work themselves and they're never going to be able to step away from the work, then it's not a complete entrepreneur. Does that make sense?
Sure. So why is that only if they're the kind of person to step away, they're building something that they can step away from? Because I'm pretty sure that we could come up with a plan that we'd be able to figure out, yeah, listen, here's a way that you could step away from your business, any business, even a tradesperson, salesperson, whatever. There's always a way that you could step out.
Absolutely.
So is it just the mindset? If they have the mindset of, at some point, I want to step away?
Yeah. So I talked about action taking.
Right.
I don't know one successful entrepreneur. I don't know one successful entrepreneur that is not an action taker.
Okay.
And I think that's an integral part of people. There are people who talk about ideas like, wouldn't it be cool if we had an invention for this?
Right.
Like you hear your grandpa or your uncle say that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they never do anything about it.
No.
They never build it, they talk about it, and they're this genius that never does anything. Well, that's not an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs typically are action takers, so that's one side of it. They're people who take an idea and do it. Oh, that's a new idea? Let's do it. Not like, I'm a plumber, so let's be a plumber like the rest of the plumbers. Nothing against plumbers. But it's already being done. An entrepreneur thinks in different ways. So I want to be a plumber, but I'm gonna build a plumbing business in the city where we're going to have 50 trucks going out and then lots of different things. That's an entrepreneur. They're thinking bigger, and they're an action taker where they're going and changing something from the normal Joe Blow whatever. And this is simply my opinion, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the action taker, that's the important part to me, because there are lots of people who think they're entrepreneurs and yet they don't take action.
Okay.
And they're never going to be an entrepreneur. They're going to be a small business person.
Okay.
Where's your mind going?
So I think about myself. 5 years. very little action. Mind you, I took an infinite amount of action. If we look at action the way we did it, which is, well, going from 0 to 1 is an infinite change.
Absolutely.
So the person who decides to, listen, I'm going to start my own business, they've committed to starting their own business, and now they don't take any action, or it's very little action, they're getting discouraged massively, whatever. So on some level, there's action. But from someone who's built even a small business, like, you're not taking any action. So I think of myself, I say, man, by the definition of, I think of myself prior as a small business. Mind you, now I think bigger. I've got massive ideas of what I want to do with the business.
So you're bringing up this, I think that as we're talking, I'm starting to get a clear picture of what I believe about entrepreneurship, okay?
Okay.
In a small business, you're still an employee. You're simply paid by you, who is also the owner.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah.
Whereas where you're an entrepreneur, you're building a business. And a true business is where you can step away. You don't have to be an employee.
So I think when you say step away, you don't necessarily, you don't have to do, your business would run fine without you.
If your business runs better without you than with you, you're an entrepreneur.
Okay, fair enough.
You can step away from it and it runs well, okay?
So myself now, I look at myself later on,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to be a solid case or not. Like, I'm sure we got some great employees and stuff that we'll hire in the future, and I don't know. So if I'm not that, if I don't trust enough, I can step away. It's interesting. I was looking at a show the other day, and this guy's built a massive business in the hundreds of millions, and he's a vast micromanager on every level. So he can obviously walk away. He's more than enough capital built up where he can delegate whatever. But even he's he clearly doesn't feel confident enough. He had a kid. 6 hours later, he's back at work.
Yeah.
So what does that make him? Because that's something with personality.
And there are other issues going on there, right? Like an addiction to work and what's going on there, or an addiction to micromanaging or control or something, and there could be other things going on there. I'm not saying anything bad about the kid. It's just those are the patterns, right? For you though, I'm going to challenge you, Daniel, because you, I think, have the goal of building something massive, and so it can give you options.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about control and freedom. Yeah.
Yes, and so I don't see you as. I mean, maybe you'll become a micromanager of 1,000 people, maybe, but you're still an entrepreneur because you can step away. You're building something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Sure.
Is it making?
Yeah. So I'm starting to get a better idea.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll switch it a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Okay. Can you step away?
Not right now.
Okay, do you see yourself, is there a plan in the future to be able to step away?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So is that through, this is interesting because I don't think we've ever really talked about this.
No,
is it through, hiring more people and then you could step away that way? Is it through, I build something, I know we've talked about, different subscription businesses and stuff like that where, you build it, it's a program, and then it runs itself. What does that look like for you? And then I'll challenge you even deeper.
Go for it.
Why do you classify yourself as an entrepreneur?
Because I want to create something that I can walk away from. So whether I sell it, so my view is multiple income streams. Everything is MSIs. If I've got an active business where I'm maybe coaching people, fine, corporate, individual, whatever, and then I've got the subscription business that's running itself, that's a different business.
Yeah.
It's a different product line. It's a completely different structure that I don't have to monitor. I set it up and I let it run. I hire a couple of employees to run it, right? Then I could have another aspect where I sell part of my business, or all of my business, or I sell a certain program or whatever to the rights away to somebody else, and they can run with that. Or I write a book, and the book is another business where you have income generated forever, as long as it's in print and as long as it's being sold. So to me, I see all these as separate businesses under one umbrella, and you can play with them, almost like Lego. You can build them in different functions and forms, and then they can do their own thing. But the goal for me always is I'm building something that I can always walk away from, whether I leave it running and I still own it, or whether I sell it. Yeah, it's always something that's in the back of my mind. I'm always trying to build bigger, think about how I can hire employees, how I can work with people to run it themselves, and then walk away. Now here's the thing, is that entrepreneurs, to build that, we have to work like dogs at certain points in time to get it going.
True.
It's the way it is. We've got to put in the work. So it can start with sales or start with whatever. And once that's built up, then we're golden. But until it builds up, yeah, we've got to put in the effort.
Fair enough. So what makes the difference now between you're listening to a story from somebody, what are some triggers for you that you're thinking of? You're like, you're a business owner, or you're an employee who's actually an entrepreneur, or you're trying to, how are you differentiating in your head? Like, I think there's a lot of people that don't see or understand the potential themselves.
Yep.
Having said that, I think that everyone is an unlimited, untapped piece of potential.
Yep.
And we've talked many times, even the most successful people and most recognized people in the world aren't, they haven't reached their full potential.
Yep.
So how do you differentiate in your head whether they're just someone who's thinking small, they haven't reached their full potential, or you're, just for who you are, you're tapped out?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the real message that I want to figure out is, what are some questions that someone could ask themselves to have a better grasp of self-awareness as it pertains to who am I in these three categories?
Yeah. This is what I ask people typically. I ask them, how much do you need to be in the business? Are you working in the business or are you working on the business? Okay? So working in the business, I'm the bricklayer, or I'm the coach, or I'm the whatever, and it depends on me to do all the work. If I'm not doing the work, then it's not getting done properly. That's a lot of people will say that, right? And
sure.
That's like the hallmark sign of a small business person mindset. Because I do it the best, therefore I'm the only one that can do it. So I'll hire somebody, but I'll complain about them all the time and whine about them all the time and talk about how only I know how to do it. Versus the entrepreneur, who might do it better than other people or might not. But regardless, they hire people, everyone doing it at 60% of what they could do it. But when you've got 10 people doing it at 60%, you've got way more than one in the end. You've got a bunch of people doing things, right?
Okay. That's fair enough.
You're getting more work done. So yeah, to me it's all about control is part of it. Control, but like, do I see myself as I have to be a fundamental part of this or it falls apart? Or can I hire other people and trust them? Trust my systems, trust the things that I put together, the structure that I put together to run things. A great book for anyone curious about this is E-Myth by Gerber. Fantastic book where you can, it basically goes through, it's a kind of a story format where it goes through a situation where a person is going, oh, wait a second, I've been burning myself out and ruining relationships with employees because of my expectations of everyone needs to live up to my standards. Well, keep high standard. I'm not saying lower your standards. Keep high standards, but then teach other people these standards instead of taking over all the time and doing it for yourself. And I think that's key for the process.
So I see that for so many people that I think, yeah, you should really get that book and figure that strategy
Gerber
out.
is the last name of the author there.
And E-Myth, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit, I think there's a lot of current employees thinking about taking action in different ways to become business owner, entrepreneur, whatever it is. What would you say to them to get them to either take the step or stay where they're at and be content? Like, what would you need to ask yourself this, and this, and find out who you are. What would your advice be to them to figure it out? So you get an employee who comes to you and says, listen, I've had some ideas in the past, I just haven't really taken action. They worry about the common things, job security, and all these other things. What's your advice to them as a as a coach?
Yeah, advice or questions. I'll probably muddle this a little bit as I go through, but
Sure.
from top of my head, I would say you need to be an action taker. And if there's risk involved, it doesn't matter. You trust yourself more than you are afraid of risk. There's risk to everything. To me, there's greater risk as an employee than as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, it depends on you.
Yeah, you can
As
bet
an
on
employee,
yourself.
as an employee, you could be the best employee, and the company caves or it's bought out or whatever, and you're done.
Fair enough.
You have no control over things. So for me, there's less risk in entrepreneurship. But how does a person handle risk? Do they look at risk and go, "Oh no," and run away from it, or do they look at risk and go, "How can I run through this?" And if you're the second type of personality, if you've worked at yourself to become the second kind of person, you've got a better chance at entrepreneurship. Another thing would be whether you see yourself as being the only person that can finish something. It's like, I've got a brother. I love him. He does fantastic work. He's a tradesperson, finishing carpenter, unbelievably beautiful work that he does. And he'll never be an entrepreneur because he has to do it himself. So if you have to do everything yourself, then you're simply going to own your own job instead of somebody else owning your job, still working for somebody else. So that's a big part. Is this how you see that? The third part is, what experience do you have in the fundamentals of business? So like research and development, marketing, sales, managing, hiring, HR, that kind of stuff. Those are some of the keys of business. And if somebody has none of that, then I say stick with your job for a little while and learn those things. Make money the way you're already making money and learn those things. Once you've learned some of those things, and I would say sales is the most important, but they're all important. Once you learn a couple of those things and you're starting to get good, now you can start exploring and doing that part-time. And go nuts with it a little bit, okay? Have fun with it. You explore it. So if somebody is so terrified, this is another question that I would ask, is if you have a fear of asking somebody for money to buy something that's worthwhile to buy, and you are not willing to work through that fear, don't become an entrepreneur. Because you're going to suck at it. And you're going to hate life, and you're going to quit and go back to your job. So stuff like that, where somebody's got to be willing to work through fear, so work through the perceived risk. Be willing to, like I said, go through those fundamentals of business, understand them on a basic level. I don't have business school education. I don't think people need business school education. What you need is to understand from somebody else, how do I do this? And the people that are good at it will help you in better ways than a school will.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you kind of discouraged me a little bit. And I started to think maybe I'm not an entrepreneur. So
in what ways? What are you thinking?
So I look back previously, and you say the number one thing that I keep hearing is you need to be an action taker. I was anything but an action taker. The only thing I truly took action on instantaneously was, yeah, I'm gonna be in business. And then if I had heard this 5 years ago, I'd have been so deathly afraid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Because you say, well, you need marketing experience. What is that even? I've heard the word, but like, what does that mean? No idea. Sales. Okay, sure. I have some idea.
Yeah.
Like all these research and development, I still have a hard time with that concept.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Okay,
So,
but with you, Daniel, I think your language is betraying the fact that you are an entrepreneur. Okay, because you said I didn't know those things. If I would have known those things, I would. But you did grow in these things, right? How many times did you listen to that audiobook on closing the sale or whatever?
yeah,
How many times?
I still listen to it.
How many times do you listen to it?
A lot. I couldn't.
20 times? 30 times?
Probably 50, 60.
50,
70.
60 times, okay? Well, you don't necessarily need experience in this. You're learning and growing it, okay?
True, but after how long? Now, after 4 years, I've just started to like take massive action in
Right.
learning, thanks to a coach, obviously. But
Right, but when you started doing those things, that's when you started seeing the success in business,
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
Now, this is something interesting, because like you said, Mark, you're completely discouraging anyone from ever doing anything.
Yeah.
And I say, well, no, so, at least I don't want to do that. What I would say is, This is the number one thing you need to do if you want to become an entrepreneur. Become so dissatisfied with life as an employee, with the lack of freedom, the lack of choice, the lack of job security, the lack of all things that really we want in life, that you vomit when you think of yourself as an employee. Because when you are so sick of it, that you go, I will do whatever it takes to do this on my own, then you're ready. Then you're really going to take action. Then you're going to do things that are difficult to do. Now, some people have that kind of naturally. Some people have been grown up with that in their home. Other people have to develop. You had to develop that in many ways. I've had to develop that in many ways, where we go, like, to me, when somebody says, well, Mark, have you ever thought about working for, like, that is such a mind-boggling joke in my mind. I would never work for somebody. No, well, not for money. I'll work for somebody for free and learn a skill. But I would never work for somebody for money as an employee. Like, that's so... I don't even have the words for it.
Okay.
Like, I don't have the description in my mind to understand what it would take for me to try to be an employee anymore.
So some people would challenge you on this and say, well, that just means you have a hard time with authority.
Okay, fair enough. And sure enough, I have had a hard time with authority.
Okay.
In some ways, in that I'm like... This is going to sound bad. So this is my employment history, okay? I've had lots of jobs. I have been an employee many times over. And when I sign on the dotted line that I'm going to be an employee, I follow the employer. I do what they tell me to do. I follow their advice. I ask, hey, could we do this better? If they say, no, it's a dumb idea, okay, I'll do it your way. So I've listened to authority, but yeah, I've had a hard time with it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. What kind of fool is running this ship if they don't listen to any advice, if they don't learn and grow, if they don't... and so, again, there was this dissatisfaction that grew in me, and I've had a problem in authority, not in the sense that I won't listen to it or obey it or follow it if I've committed to it. It's more that I go, there were so many people that don't know what they're doing in positions of power in a society.
Fair.
And again, this comes back to my 80% rule of, like, 80% of people that are doing anything are either completely incompetent or okay at what they do.
Okay.
They're not very good at what they do. It doesn't matter whether they're a CEO or an upper level manager, lower level manager, employee, chimney sweep, doesn't matter what they are. 80% of people aren't very good at what they're doing. 20%, they're good to very few, like 3, 4, 5% are excellent.
Okay.
So there are a lot of bosses out there that are terrible. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And because I believe that, I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay. So, I had a question. When it was coming to... Where was I going with this?
It's all right, I'll come back.
Yeah.
It's an interesting discussion. Think about that. It'll come back to you as I'm talking. But this is a fascinating idea, because people should be scared going into entrepreneurship, because it takes energy and effort. At the same time, they should be way more terrified of working as an employee for the rest of their life, because most employees will work for the rest of their life.
True.
Most employees, the vast majority of people, are not making 7 figures as an employee.
Yeah.
And they're going to be working until they basically die. Or they're going to stop working and live an extremely mediocre subsistence life until they die.
That's fair.
And that's way more terrifying to me.
Yeah, I can... What do you say to the person, though, that says... that internally feels there's more job security, and as an entrepreneur, you don't know when your next check is going to come. No,
yeah.
Until
starting out.
Starting out.
Yeah.
As that progresses, there's skills that you can learn that'll guarantee your next income and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, everyone would jump ship, and I ask this question all the time when people think about, am I going to be an entrepreneur? Should I do this? I said, well, let me ask you this. If I got you 10 clients right now, would you jump ship? I've yet to meet a single person that says no. Like, yeah, of course. If I got you lined up with 10, and that goes for every single business decision, whether it's I know people that work out of the garage, and I said, listen, if I were to get you 5 clients right now, corporate clients, would you jump ship and actually put some time and money on an office space?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's that for them, the idea that, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get those 4 extra clients.
Yeah.
So there is some security there, and so they would say, well, listen, I hear what you're saying, that they could fire me. This is one of those, yeah, well, we could get hit by an asteroid today, although, you know, getting fired is a lot more likely, but...
Probably a little bit more likely.
Like 1 or 2% maybe.
Yeah, so this question I run into all the time. I run into it with real estate investing.
Okay.
So I invest in real estate, and people say, well, why would I take the risk of investing my money and making 8, 10, 12% with you? I'm like, are you kidding me? You're putting your money in the bank where it's paying you less than inflation.
True.
So let's play this out, okay? And this is a really strong belief for me. Short-term risk is completely different than long-term risk. For example, if you put your money in GICs today and expect, or in like whatever the government bond is, or whatever the bank interest rates, high savings interest rate of like 0.5%, if you put your money in that versus you put your money into a real estate property, no matter what the property is there a greater chance that by next week, if you need the money out, your money is probably safer in a bank? Yes. Over a week, over a month, yeah, you could argue that, okay? It's safer. But long term, what is safer? Is it safer owning an appreciating investment that you grow yourself, you have control over, you make the decisions with, and in 20, 30, 40 years, it's doubled, tripled in price, and you were able to pull money out of it every month, and it pays you a huge fee, okay? Or is it safer to have your money in a bank where you are losing more money than you're making because of deflation of the dollar? So inflation goes up by 3, it's like say 2.5% every year,
Yeah,
and you're making 50% or 0.5% on your dollar. So you're losing 2% on your money every year.
Yeah.
You put it into government, like the typical bank loans or whatever. When you invest in a bank, now you're making. Now you're losing only 1% a year. That long term is way riskier. Way riskier. So what I say is learn about something and then invest in it. Learn about real estate and then invest in it. Or learn about entrepreneurship and then invest in yourself. Invest in a business. Because it will always pay better long term. Always. When you have a business that you've built yourself and you understand how it runs and you understand how to tweak it if an economy falters or if this happens or if this happens, you know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You're in control. That's way less risky 5, 10, 15 years down the road. The job is less risky for the next paycheck. That's it.
Yeah.
After that, once you grow the business, it's far less risky. And here's the thing. What's the worst case scenario if your business fails?
I mean, absolute worst case scenario, you can't pay your mortgage, and you know, some people would argue homeless.
Yeah, you start over.
That's true.
How many people start over when they lose their jobs?
Yeah, that's true.
How many people have more than 3 months of savings in the bank?
Nobody.
Very few people, right?
Yeah.
So what are you losing? The worst case scenario actually isn't all that bad.
Yeah.
You start over anyway. And to me, I go, it's all risk to reward. The risk of both situations is you don't have a job, you don't make money. The reward for one is you slave away for somebody else and make a little bit of money. The reward for the other one is you become a millionaire and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So the risk is very similar, the reward is vastly different. And that's the same with like the real estate GIC kind of idea. The risk is about the same. You lose your money. It's happened in Greece. It's happened in Argentina. Like where you cannot take your money out of the bank. They lock down the bank. No, it's not your money anymore. It's the government's control of the situation. Will tell you when you can take out your money. It's out of your control. It's happened.
Yeah.
So the risk is the same. You lose your money. The reward, vastly different. Here you've got 20 properties, and you run your own ship. You do what you want when you want, because you control this little real estate empire, and you serve people because you're helping them, because you have quality housing for other people, and you're running it well. You're not a slumlord. You're not like that. It's vastly different. I'm contributing to the world here, and I've got freedom. Here, I'm not contributing a lot. I don't feel like I'm contributing a lot, and I'm miserable. To me, they're so vastly different.
Fair enough. So it came back to me with that question that I was going to ask you. So we were talking about people that are risk adverse and that kind of thing. So for myself, I think of, and you were saying you have to be dissatisfied before you kind of step out, and that's one of the things. So I think of myself, and one of the biggest, I view it as an issue that happened, which is I went on my own. I ended up living in my car at different times. I think that, this is even before I became an entrepreneur. I started living in my car, and when you live in a car, you're homeless on so many different levels.
Yep.
During that time, depending on how long you do it for, I did it for quite some time. The biggest thing that I learned was, well, I'm not going to die. And so
you learned that the worst case scenario is not all that bad.
Right. So now to take that next step, like to become dissatisfied, I'm like, dude, I've done it all, man. In my car, and still here. Now all of a sudden there's some like, I'm fine. No matter what I do, I stay at a job, I'm fine. I do this, I'm fine.
Yep.
So to get to that point where you're like, the idea of working for someone else, I'm gonna vomit. It scares the shit out of me. Like all those things. I have a really hard time with that.
You have a hard time with what?
With getting to a point where I'm so dissatisfied I take action.
You're not. You have been taking action.
But it's not.
You are decided. We've had conversations a long time. I remember conversations with you where like, should I get a job? I'm like, think about a job, Daniel. How is that going to be? And you're like, I did get depressed thinking about it. I'm like, that is that dissatisfaction, is it not?
That's true. I still questioned it so many times.
Yeah.
Even not that long ago, man.
Yeah.
It seemed right. It's still like, maybe like there's some things where I could be like, it could be fine. It could be fine. It's okay.
Yeah. And this is what's always brought you back when we had conversations like this. How much are you going to be making a month? And you're like, not very much. I'm like, okay, so you're going to spend 160 hours a month working, and it's going to bring you this much. You're like, yeah, okay. And how much are you going to enjoy your life? And how much are you going to be building towards your future? And once you actually see the bigger picture, you're like, no, that disgusts me. I'm not going to do it.
That's true.
That's why you're different. You're not the same as the person who's employed and going, you know what, I think this is pretty good. You're not the same. You might have been the same at some point. You're not that person anymore. I was the same at some point. I'm not that person anymore. And so it's easy to think about that and go, oh yeah, like, that's not so bad. I'm like, no. We have already a different mindset. And what I'd encourage everyone here is keep thinking differently. Spend time with entrepreneurs. Go to events that entrepreneurs go to. They're fantastic people. They're better people. Generally speaking, I found there are better people that are entrepreneurs that aren't.
So I think there's a lot of people that are going to read into this.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are better people, Mark?
Yes, on average.
So what makes them a better person? Give me some qualities that an entrepreneur would have.
I'm going to qualify this a little bit, okay? So there are fantastic people in any walk of life.
Yeah.
Any country, any culture, any background, religion, doesn't matter. I sincerely believe that they're because I've met fantastic people. I've lived in 4 different countries. I've met fantastic people. Lots of different walks of life. Having said that, it's the same. Like, if you walk and see, if you take 100 people, how many of them are people that you believe are fantastic human beings? Throw out a number.
And just a random group of
On
100?
the street, yeah.
I don't know, I don't know if I should say this, like 2, 3, 3.
Yeah, so like there are a lot of people that are okay, they're fine, right? You could work with them for a while, whatever. But there are like very few people that we go, I'm really drawn to this person. They excite me. When I spend time with them, I grow and I learn. And there are a few people like that, and that's okay. That's not a slam against people. It's simply the way it is. When you go to a group of entrepreneurs, the average goes up. So now you're talking like 20% of the people. You're like, I want to spend time with this person. So it's not that they're as a quality, once you have the entrepreneur label, you are a better quality person. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that when you're in those groups, you meet a lot of people that are really kind, really generous with their time and energy. They care about others. They're willing to invest in others, and they think new ideas, and they draw you in because they're always dreaming and they're passionate. And there are more of those kind of people. When I'm talking about quality of person, I'm not saying like the quality of the value of the human being as a human being. I'm saying, who would I want to spend time with?
Yeah.
And I want to grow. So I want to spend time with people who grow.
Fair enough. All right, we're running out of time.
We are. Good.
All right.
Next week.
Next week.